So, hello and welcome to the latest in the Earn, Learn, Thrive LinkedIn Lives. So, with me today, I have Honor, who is a fairly recent graduate of my group program, Designed to Flourish. And we're going to be talking about why she decided to do the group program and about the impact it's had on her business and looking at her niche, her offer, and basically just pulling back the curtain a little bit into what she does. Now, would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Okay, so I am now, I call it an English speaking skills coach, which has evolved over a few years. I work with Spanish speaking professionals and I focus on helping them get their speaking to where they want it to be, which is usually more fluent, more confident, being able to go into meetings, presentations, and express themselves the way they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of people, I went online during COVID. With about the week that COVID hit, I suddenly became an online teacher. And really, I think it's been about 3 years. I've evolved from general teaching to a much more specialized niche.
I'm quite a big fan of niche. So let's talk a little bit about that. And how, so you mentioned about speaking, and that's something that you found that your clients were particularly interested in. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so when I first started, I was offering everything to to everyone, which is exhausting. And as I started to specialize more, working with particularly professionals, and I was doing a lot of one-to-one, and what came up again and again is, oh, speaking is the thing that worries me. I go into a meeting and I can't find these words and I go blank, and now I've had this bad experience. Well, actually, writing reports or emails or anything like that, they generally tended to be fine.
Mm.
So I think because of my background as well, in my previous lives, I've done a lot of speaking, public speaking, just working with the public. So it came quite naturally to me to help with that. And it goes far beyond the grammar and the vocabulary and things. It's often about how you're communicating, which often people, when they're trying to do that in their second language, they forget a lot of the skills that they have in their first language.
Now, you make a really excellent point there, I think, because what often makes a good niche is that combination of like your skills and interests and often background. And it can be, as you say, totally non-ELT related background and what the clients want and what kind of clients you like working with and so on, what you actually enjoy doing. And
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of finding what you enjoy doing. Of course, it's also got to have a market, people who are willing to pay for it. But it's just works much better, I think, if it's something that you actually have some passion for. And it sounds like you do.
Yeah. I think it was a good combination of people saying to me, this is what I need, and me feeling, well, actually, this is something I find really interesting. I find that more interesting than writing how to write a good email, something like that.
So how has that impacted on your actual offer? And has that changed at all since we worked together?
Yes, I think part of well, I'm probably jumping ahead a bit here, but part of what I got from the course was really thinking a lot about what am I actually doing? What is my offer and how am I selling that or marketing it? And yeah, I think because it evolved over the years, I wasn't completely clear on that. And it's helped me to think about to go back to the basics of what do my clients need? What's the best thing for them? I've actually made my offers slightly more flexible to adapt to what they might need, because there are people with slightly different needs, slightly different levels. But I think the way I'm explaining it is probably simpler because it got very complicated. And I've now put it into a nice simple package. The core is now quite clear.
Yeah, no, because I remember when you were doing the group program and you put together your ideas around the offer, and yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah,
like one of the things that we did was to pull out, what's the actual core offer, and it sounds really obvious that obviously it should be around what your clients need, but how often that actually doesn't happen because you just start doing what you've always, I don't mean you specifically, but people in general start doing what they've always done, which is obviously we do all the 4 skills and we do the grammar and the vocab, and actually you don't necessarily have to do that.
No, it took me a long time to let go of. I should definitely be including some grammar in here, because if not, it's not proper English teaching. But actually, I came to realize that it's not what most of my clients are looking for.
No, exactly. And it's all about, this doesn't mean obviously that everybody should immediately remove grammar from their offer, because it's all about what do your specific group of clients need and want, and what will get them the results that they want. That's always the starting point, which is bringing us back to niche. That's why the niche is so important, because if you don't know who it is, then you don't know what they want, and therefore you can't provide it.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said this, but it's something along the lines of, rather than feeling that you've got to compete with everybody else on the internet, you want to produce something where essentially you're the only person doing something in exactly that way, and then you've got no competition. Because if what they want is what you're offering, then you're the only choice.
Yeah.
And that
No.
takes a lot of pressure off.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I think it did just come from listening to people and hearing that. But yeah, it is hard to let go of, I feel I should be doing this because other people are doing this and they're obviously doing really well. So I should be including that. But there were some things that I tried to include that just didn't work for me, or something that one client would say, I need this. So I go off on a tangent to provide that for them. But then nobody else ever asked for that.
Yeah, which brings us back to it being exhausting, because I think with niche, a big reason obviously is because it makes the marketing so much simpler, because you have one clear message for one clear group of people, but also it does actually make your workload lower, because you're not reinventing the wheel all of the time for different people.
And I find sometimes people will come to me and they say, I want this, I want to do role plays. There's someone came to me recently, I want to do role plays, that's definitely what I need. And something I do a huge amount of. But we had a chat about his needs and I explained what I did. And in the end, he felt that actually that was really good. But I think he hadn't known that was available. And once he started thinking about it, it worked. But he'd come with this set idea of, I want to do role plays, because he felt that was the solution. Obviously, sometimes someone you speak to is not going to be a perfect client for you, and that's fine. But sometimes it's telling people this is available, rather than what is it you want, that you suggest some ideas to them, and actually them hearing that's a possibility, that opens their mind up to it, and they go, actually, that would be really good.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because they are only basing what they want on their previous experience. And that might even be their experience at school, which is a very different thing. Pass an English exam at school is totally different from the English that you need to do well in a company doing a particular role. So part of the job sometimes is educating your potential clients about what they might actually want. I find that myself with the group program that you did and that I offer. It's quite in depth, and I think one of my challenges in terms of marketing it is that a lot of people genuinely think that they can do a couple of weeks course and they'll know everything they need to know about marketing a business. Actually, they won't.
No, I think when I came to you, I had that sense of, I know I need something, but I'm not entirely sure what that something is.
Yeah.
But then speaking to you, I was like, oh yes, I think this might be it. I couldn't have told you, this is what I need.
No, I would say that's the case with most of the people that I work with, because why would you? You're an English teacher. You don't come from a business or marketing background. Neither did I once upon a time. So that whole thing is a little bit of a mystery. I think that's true. So yes, you mentioned when you came to talk to me, you had a sense that you needed something. So why did you decide to do the group program? What was it that spoke to you?
I think at that point I'd had a business as opposed to just random online classes. I had something that could actually be called a business for a couple of years, and I'd had some success, but it definitely wasn't going the way I wanted. Particularly, I think it wasn't the main issue really was consistency, not having I'd have either lots of clients and be totally overwhelmed or nothing at all and be panicking. So that was the main issue. But I also had a sense of other things that weren't working. And as I mentioned, not perhaps being totally clear about what I actually offered, having gone through so many evolutions of it. I was aware that I should be doing something different I was doing some marketing using LinkedIn, but I was aware it was a bit patchy and it wasn't really what you could call a strategy. It was more putting posts out and seeing what happens. So I felt I needed to build a foundation and try and bring together everything that I'd been doing and make a plan for moving forward. That was a big part of what I wanted to do, instead of just going, maybe I should do this, or maybe this thing. Actually have a plan of, well, I need to do this first and then this, and I know why I'm doing these things. That's what I was looking for.
And would you say you found what you were looking for?
I would. Yeah, definitely. I think it's not that I've resolved all my problems, but I think I'm definitely clearer on where my stronger points are, where my weaker points are. Found the parts to do with mindset very useful. So thinking about what's actually a block for me, what are things that I really can't do because of circumstances, and what are things that I just think I can't do, which are definitely different. And I did come out of it feeling like that, yeah, I have a plan. I know what areas I need to be working on. So yeah, it was exactly what I was looking for.
Great. No, that's great. And I think, yes, it's a bit like learning a language. I think you can compare them in a way, in that you're never finished.
No.
There are always things that you can do to improve your business, to make it flow more, etc. But I hope that you come out of the program, you and everybody who's done it, with those tools and understanding those principles, and, as you say, like a clear pathway ahead.
Yeah.
So I've got a question here from Jean-Paul. So he says, I'm attending because I have a background in accounting and have experience teaching business English, but I wondered if you have any advice considering a focus on English for academic purposes. So that's a big question, because the whole thing about fixing on a niche is something that does take quite a lot of thinking and talking about and work. We probably spend about a month on it in the group program, even when people already know what their niche is, which you, like Honor, kind of did. But I would say it's definitely a niche which people are successful at. The more you understand what those clients need, the better you will do. So you haven't mentioned whether you have a background in an academic background yourself, Jean-Paul, but obviously if you do, that's going to help a lot. It's not that you necessarily have to have a background in the thing that your clients are doing in English. I don't think that you do, but you do need to really understand how they use English and what they need to be able to do with it. Otherwise, you're going to really struggle both to create a program that really meets their needs and also to market it, because it will be harder to speak to them about what their struggles are. But you might get that experience from having worked with lots of clients in that field rather than having done it yourself. Would you agree, Anna?
Yes. Yeah. I haven't had much experience with English for academic purposes, but I suppose my experience of going into what they call business English, I think is just a huge term, was quite interesting, because I don't have a business or not a traditional business background. So I felt that was a barrier for quite a long time, that I can't teach people business English, I'm not a businesswoman. But talking to people, I realized they know the words for their own profession. And I work with a lot of people in the IT sector, and they know the words for that. They know how to explain technical things. But what they didn't know was things like, if you're going into a meeting with your CEO, how you might adapt your language to, I'm speaking to my colleague who I speak to every day, and things like that,
Yeah.
differentiation, or how you might deal with a situation like having to give a colleague feedback or doing a presentation. Yeah, I don't think you need to have necessarily done the same thing,
Mm.
but you need to really understand what their problems are and be able to address it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way of putting it, and great examples as well of the kind of thing. And Jean Paul's saying, I have a PhD in sociology and previously worked as a sociology lecturer. So that would give you a lot of insight into the kinds of language that they need to produce, both written academic English and also contributing in seminars and all the different types of things they need to do with English. So that would help, I think, in terms of speaking to students. And of course, while I totally agree with you, Honor, that you don't have to have a background in IT, for example, doesn't hurt if you do,
No,
because it immediately makes, it's a shortcut, because it makes people go, oh yeah, obviously they know about this because they have this experience. So it just makes it a little easier, let's say, if you do,
definitely.
certainly in terms of your marketing. Yeah. Okay. So how would you describe your experience on the program then?
Slightly worried at the beginning because it's quite a big commitment about how am I going to fit this in with everything else. But actually, I found that part of it really easy because you get the videos in advance and you can work through them at your own pace. So there's not a lot of actual demands at a certain time, which made life
Mm,
really easy. And there were some parts that I wanted to spend a lot more time on because it wasn't one of my strengths, and some bits I could go a bit faster. So I found that really useful.
mm,
I also liked that because you have these group sessions, so you get to meet other people and hear their perspective. And some people were quite similar to me, and some were really doing something quite different.
mm,
And that was really interesting. And it also did just get me out of my silo, if you like,
mm,
and think, oh, maybe this thing is
mm.
possible, or this isn't quite as I thought about it. So that was really interesting. And I found there was a good progression. I think the whole way through the course, I felt like I was going somewhere and achieving something. So it
That's
wasn't
great.
just a lot of theory. I think because we had the milestones, so we had to submit something like a marketing plan was one of them, or website copy. And I found that really useful because it gave me a short-term thing to aim for.
Mm,
And getting feedback on that was really good as well, because you're always, when you're self-employed, you always have this feeling of, is this okay? Have I just completely invented it? So it was very nice to have other people's
mm.
feedback on it as
Now
well.
that,
And maybe you were thinking about something small. So there was, I think, the small steps, because if you
mhm.
just think about the whole business, it gets a bit overwhelming,
Mm,
mind-blowing. But thinking about, okay, right now I'm focused on this. And so I felt that there was a lot of progress in small steps.
mm. I totally agree. No, thank you. It's really good to hear it from the other side, because that's my intention, is to provide that structure and what's the next step. And also you then end up with the milestones. You do end up with almost like a dossier
Yeah.
of all those different elements of your business that you can then take away and continue to implement. At least that's the plan. I'm just seeing here there's a question from Maria. So Maria says, do you think utilizing interactive tools and resources is useful? So if I've understood that correctly, I think you mean in terms of teaching with the clients. And I think certainly one of the things that we focus on in the program quite a lot is moving away from this idea that it has to be an hour a week lesson, because there's actually lots of things that you can do depending on what the needs of your clients. So we have lots of access to things like transcripts, for example, from our sessions, or voice messaging, or all sorts of things that you could use as part of your offer. But it all comes back down to, what do they need, I would say. Anna, do you have anything to say on that?
Yeah, no, I would completely agree. I think it's a huge advantage of teaching online, actually. I think not everything works well online, but I think
Mm.
actually teaching really does, partly because of so many of the resources that you can use. And I still have a fairly basic setup. I'm just using Google Drive and slides and things. But
Mm.
the way that you can use video, so I will get my clients to record videos, I'll give them feedback. We'll be using Google Docs to exchange comments within the sessions. I try to make certain things interactive. We've come a long way from this is your textbook. You can make it so much more personalized because you can constantly be communicating. You don't have to be constantly communicating if you don't want to. But it's not just, it means it takes the pressure off that one session, because quite a lot of the contact you have with that client might be that you're commenting on a document they've written, or a video, or they're sending you something and you're giving them feedback on it. So there's so much that you can do outside of that one session that supports it.
Yeah, totally. And that shouldn't be like seen as free extras on top of the hour, in my opinion. That's part of the whole service.
Yeah.
And that's why I generally do advise people who do my group program to move away from that hourly rate, because they're not just paying for an hour of your time, they're paying for the whole package that you're providing them, which also can mean that you actually end up working fewer contact hours and earning more, which is good. But it's good for them too.
Yeah,
because it gives them that flexibility. Like you were saying about accessing the videos on my group program, the fact that you don't have to turn up at a particular time to watch that presentation is good for me, because I just recorded them and then I don't have to keep giving the same presentation. But it's also good for you, because you don't have to be there at that particular time. You can watch it in chunks. You can go back and see things,
Yeah. And I think it means that the time that you do have face to face is actually so much more valuable, because maybe they've done something before, they'll have something after, they'll already come in with a lot of knowledge and ideas about things. And it also, I think because I'm working with professionals, so I'm trying to get them to apply it in their real life, if you like. That's so much easier, because they can take a slide I've written or a resource I've given them, and they can have it on their screen when they go into a meeting. And so they're using that, they're applying that directly, which you couldn't do that with the textbook.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay, so we're coming up towards the end of the half hour, actually. Can I just ask you then, so if anybody's thinking of doing my group program, what would you say to them?
In short, I would say, yes, do it. Longer, I would say, if you're at a point where you're feeling stuck or you just want something else, then I think it gave something a bit extra. It went more in depth than some things that I've seen. And there was a lot of information as well, a lot of practical things about how do you do marketing and how do you work LinkedIn and Facebook and things like that. But there was also that more underlying layer of what's the purpose and why are we doing this and how do we get that message across to people, which I feel is I found maybe lacking in other similar resources that are out there. So I think, if it's the right time for you to do it, then it will give you a huge jump forward and make you feel much more confident in your business and what you're doing.
Lovely, thank you. So, Honor, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, any Spanish IT professionals or any other, business professional, you never know, or they might know someone who want to work on their speaking, where would they find you?
The easiest place is linked, so they can find some information on my LinkedIn profile. I post a lot on LinkedIn, so they can see a bit of what I talk about on there, and they could just send me a direct message. But that's the easiest way.
Excellent, thank you. And obviously you can also, if you're interested in my group program, you can just DM me on LinkedIn as well, or you can go to my website, earnlearnthrive.com. Thank you very much, everybody who was here live and who was asking questions and making comments. That's great. And if you are watching this on replay and you have any questions or comments, do still add them, because we can come back and check them later. And thank you very much. And thank you, Honor, for agreeing to spend this time chatting with me. It's been really great.
It's been fun.
So thanks very much then, everybody.